Welcome to Old Guy Talks to Me, a podcast dedicated to helping guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. Ladies, if you want to know what your guy is thinking, this podcast is for women too. Each week, a special guest helps you create that life you've imagined. We talk anti-aging medicine, personal growth, relationships and hot sex. Yeah, you hear me, getting laid more frequently, other guy vices, and topics that many don't want to talk about but need to. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to be old. Don't want to miss anything? Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review this podcast. And be sure to go to www.thestandard.academy/magazine and grab a free copy of our new digital magazine, The Standard Academy, where we talk about erogenous zones, growing hair back, and other things that will help you create that kick-ass life. Now get ready to listen up and share with friends.
I don't know. Like I said, there's certainly a history of people that have taken advantage of people who are in great sorrow at the loss of someone.
Leslie
So
Flint.
that
Leslie Flint didn't charge for what he did. He
Mhm.
said he wanted to do it for the good of humankind. And so now we have all of these wonderful, wonderful recordings, and anybody can go listen to them. They're free. And you can listen to people talking to their loved ones. We had mothers and fathers talking to their children, children talking to their parents, spouses talking to each other. And we have enough of these that we know what life is like in the afterlife. And we know that for certain that these people are coming through and they're anxious to talk with us. We also have recordings that we've made on just hard drives when people come through. There is a woman named Sonia Rinaldi in Brazil, and she does research in which she gets the voices of the people on their hard drives, and then she plays them back for the parents. It was the children who would come through, and they are overjoyed because they recognize the voice of their child, and there could have been any other way in which it could happen.
Mhm. Okay. So you say you have three ways you can talk to a deceased loved one.
Yes,
What
right.
is that? What is that?
We actually have many more than that, but there are three ways that I can actually give to people that they can have. One of them is using a psychotherapist. So psychotherapists today are putting people into a state of mind in which they have an afterlife communication. There are three different psychotherapy computing methods. These are state licensed clinical psychotherapists, and it's been taught to hundreds of other psychotherapists, so people can do it now. So we have the information. One of them is called induced after death communication. A second one is called it's by Rochelle Wright, and it's called repair and reattachment psychotherapy. And the third is called loving hearts connections. But these three are psychotherapists who will work with anybody. It's 98% successful. 98% of the people have this, and it reduces their grief from a high of 10 on a 10-point scale to 0 to 3 in a single session. We also have a program online that teaches people how to put themselves into a state of mind through self-hypnosis, in which they have an afterlife communication. And so that is very successful. 86% of the people who go through it have a communication. And there are other methods. There's one woman who uses meditation. She learned how to do it. Her name was Maria P. She is in the city of San Diego. She is involved in the government operations there. And she taught herself how to go into meditation. And while she's in meditation, she has meetings with her children, her two boys who had been murdered, and their extended conversations with them, and have a wonderful time with them. So those are just three, and there are probably 4 or 5 others that I could mention.
Yeah. Well, when you talk of hypnosis,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that is kind of an interesting subject because when someone is in hypnosis, they're actually in a state to a certain extent where they're open to suggestions.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and I
They're
mean
Mhm.
you see that on
Yeah.
stage where people do all sorts of stuff that they normally
Sure.
would not do, and they're
Sure.
actually not aware that they're doing it. So again, you have a person who's susceptible, who wants to believe this is happening. They're put in a state of hypnosis, but that they're I don't deny they're hearing conversations, but
Mm-hmm.
are those conversations real?
Yeah.
That's my point about a lot of this.
Sure. And we know these conversations are real. And one of the reasons we know is because they learn things they couldn't know otherwise. We have one in the self-guided afterlife connection, which uses the hypnosis. And she went into her connection. She connected with her husband, and they spent time talking while she had her eyes closed. But then a young girl came through, and she recognized the young girl as being the daughter of a friend of hers. And this daughter had been killed in a car crash, and she saw her in her vision of it while her eyes were closed. She watched her. She was baking. She had on a baking outfit, and she was making things that didn't make any sense to the woman who's having the experience. She was making jalapeno roll-ups. So he's taking, instead of meat put into a roll-up, she was putting jalapenos in them. And that was the strangest thing this woman had ever seen. She couldn't imagine making jalapeno roll-ups. So she went to the girl's mother after she got out of the session. And she asked her mother, she said, did she enjoy baking with you? And she said, oh, yes, she did all the time. And she showed her the outfit that she had worn, and it was exactly the same as what this woman had seen. And then she said, but she was doing the craziest thing I didn't understand. She was making roll-ups, and she put jalapeno peppers in them. And the woman said, yes, that was one of the favorite things that we used to do together. There are many instances like this in which they find out things they couldn't possibly have known during this period of self-hypnosis.
Okay. All
And
right.
the EMDR, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were going to say something.
The EMDR, the one that's with the psychotherapists, that's different from self-hypnosis because it decreases suggestibility. It actually makes the mind work faster rather than slowing it down. It's called EMDR. It's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's accepted by the American Psychological Association and other psychological entities. And this actually speeds the mind up and forces it to go into looking into different parts of the mind. And through that, then the person is put into a state of mind in which the person on the other side comes through to them while their mind is speeded up. It can't be suggestion because they're not suggestible when their mind is speeding up like that. And it's very successful. As I said, 98% of the people have experiences.
I'm going to switch tracks here something because it's kind of interesting that this year is actually the 100-year anniversary of the Scopes trial.
Mm-hmm.
And you commented Darwin was wrong, that we evolved from apes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what we know about Darwinian evolution is that it mathematically is impossible to happen. So, but we do know is that there is an evolution, but it's an evolution which is punctuated. So in other words, there are periods of time when things suddenly happen, that there are suddenly species that evolve that were not in the record before that. And these indicate that there is something else going on. And we say that that is because it's our universal intelligence. We are one mind in one world, and our universal intelligence creates what's in this world, and it is benign. It's always creating it. Instead of entropy, it has syntropy, which means that it is creating positively. And so that is what's creating the evolution. That's why we have punctuated evolution. That's why we can have the 100 monkey syndrome, where if 100 monkeys on one island learn to do something, then the monkeys on another island will be able to do it better, because there is this universal intelligence and it is guiding things towards syntropy. But the most important thing is we are part of that. And that's the reason that we live. We do not die.
If you missed that URL, it's in the show notes. Don't worry, it's right there for you to use. This is Oris from the Standard Academy, a men's lifestyle coaching program. Let me ask you, have you paid a price? Have you paid a price in other areas of your life for your professional success? Yeah, you know what I mean. Are you just in a roommate situation with your wife, or are you arguing all the time? Certainly there's no sex. And your kids, do they ignore you? Or worse yet, do they disrespect you? Is that your case? Is your life not working out the way you had planned? If so, I'm going to encourage you to revitalize yourself and get on a short activation call with me. That's right. Get on a short call with me. And I will, share with you some things that you can do to bring back that energy into your life. Go to the standard.academy/15-minute activation call and schedule now. That's /15 activation call, and schedule that right now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate to procrastinate. This is your opportunity to start the turnaround in your life.
you use the word syntropy in terms of development in a positive way. But if you look at epidemiological level of data, men, let's talk about men in what particular. We are not developing in a positive way. And I'm talking about from an endocrine standpoint. And I've interviewed many experts and myself. I've been very studied this area. Men's testosterone levels are going down generationally, and that's not a positive development. Men's sperm counts, and this is actually a paper that was written in the American Physiology Journal, obviously a highly refereed journal, by a team out of Hebrew University, and her name is Swan. She's an epidemiologist at NYU, and she has a book called Countdown. And sperm counts in men are going down significantly. They've dropped by 50% in the last 30 years, and the slope, the rate of that decrease is not abating. It's not leveling off. And their comment is that by 2050, around 2050, most men in the world will be infertile. Yeah. So how's that syntropic?
It is part of the scenery. So what we're doing is we're talking now about the scenery. What is important is not the scenery, it's what's inside. It's who we are as a mind, because our mind is what continues. Our mind is eternal. So what happens in the scenery is all kinds of things can happen badly, and they can happen good as well. We see the evolution towards democracies in the world today. We see much more rights, human rights for women, and much less problems with racial minorities. And there is an evolution in that way. But the important thing is that's an evolution in the mind. So that's an evolution in the way that we see ourselves and we see the world, and we can see that becoming better. But the most important thing is for each of us as individuals. So every one of us as an individual is changing. We're becoming more loving. As we grow older, we mellow, we say. We become more loving. We become more concerned about our families. And all of these things are syntropic. They're things that are happening to us as we grow and we become all the person that we can become in this life that we planned to come before we came here.
Well, some people become more mellow, and some people become grumpy old men.
Yeah.
I mean, you're making these broad generalizations, but I mean, I can think of a bunch of men that are incredibly unhappy at an older state of life. So it's not, men don't always work or develop as a single unit or in a single way. But
no, absolutely.
But the challenge, the physiological changes are not in the mind. Those are actually really measurable items that are out there.
Yeah. But our concern of what is important to us is what's in the mind, because that's what continues after the body dies. The body's going to go away. It doesn't matter how much testosterone's in it. You're going to lose the body. But we know the fact that our mind continues. We don't stop using our minds, and we don't stop living after we leave the bodies behind.
But the sperm count thing is an interesting phenomenon, because what we're really talking about is maybe a slow extinction over time of the human race.
Yeah. Now that depends upon your viewpoint of what life is all about and what we're doing here. We're in Earth School right now, and we came to Earth School to learn lessons, to grow in love and compassion, and to just have fun, to just enjoy everything about this world. So when we came to Earth School and we had these things to do, some of us decide not to do them. We have free will. We can decide we're not going to. We're going to stay as children. And that's what it amounts to. When people don't grow up from being children, they still have rages and they still have problems with their interpersonal relationships. They haven't grown up. So what we're attempting to do when we come into Earth School is we're attempting to grow into all the person that we can become, as loving, as compassionate as we can become. And part of our job is to help other people to grow with us. So we want to grow with our families, want to grow with our friends. And so We want to make sure that we give love and we receive love. And those things then are going to have an effect upon us and an effect upon humanity.
Okay. All right. And so, Craig, why don't you tell me a little bit about some of the things that you have available on your site, and you have your books that are out there and things like that. Now people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, on the website, it's seekreality.com, because the reality is you will never die. And that's the reality we're trying to teach people. On seekreality.com, we developed it primarily for baby boomers and for the silent generation, because we're both in our 70s and we realize that people are facing what's going to be happening next in their lives. And we want to reassure everybody that we have wonderful news for them, that they will never die. So seekreality.com is filled with the evidence. So we have the evidence there. And we also have descriptions of what happens in the life after this life. And the other thing that I have is I have 8 books. I would invite anybody to read any of the books. Start off with Evidence Beyond a Reasonable Doubt, You Will Never Die. That's a book that I wrote with 15 areas of evidence that you will never die. I have a book that has answers to enduring questions about your life and your afterlife, and all these things that we know about what happens when a person comes to the end of its life, what happens when they go into the next life, what their lives are like there. It's all in that book. So I'd suggest those 2 books would be the best ones to start with.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have all those links and your social media links in the show notes here. So
yes,
so
good.
we'll be glad to have that for everyone in.
Good.
So Craig, I want to thank you for coming on the program. And I mean, I'm still a skeptic, but it certainly has been an interesting conversation.
Yeah, we'll change your mind. I will just keep
Well,
giving you the evidence.
I don't know.
The
I don't know
evidence is
about
out
that.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
This is
thank you.
Ors. This is Ors, the official old guy at oldguytalkstome.com, a podcast dedicated to, well, helping guys create kick-ass lives. And if you have not already done so, sign up for my free digital magazine by going to the standard.academy/magazine, where lots of articles to help you create that life that you want. One of the articles is One Secret Place to Touch a Woman. And it's not her clitoris, because that's not a secret place. So, but you'll find out what that secret place is in that article. In the meantime, go out and create an incredible life. Until next time.
Thank you for joining Dr. Orist and his incredible guest. Like what you heard and learned? Then be sure to do 3 things. 1, subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. 2, share this with someone who may need to hear it. 3, leave a review and rate this podcast. Opt in at www.thestandard.academy/magazine and get our free digital magazine with savings, articles, and deeper dives into cool controversy. Be the guy who takes action. Without action, you're not going to get the results you want. Thank you again, and make it a great day.